Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk, back another video day, and today the Houston Texans beat the New York Giants 28-10 in the preseason, and the first home game at NRG Stadium in 2024. If you look outside of the wild card playoff game, but for this season, this is the first game at home for the Texans. They've played two preseason games so far before this: a loss in Canton, Ohio, in the Hall of Fame game against Chicago, and then the second game was a win in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Now, today we saw the Texans play at home against the Giants. They win 20-10, and they will wrap the preseason up next week, same day, Saturday, same time, 12 o'clock against the Los Angeles Rams. Be a great way to wrap up the preseason at home. And then the Texans, of course, will go to Indianapolis for week 1 against the Colts. So I was at this game today. I want to speak about my experience at the game today. Loved being at NRG Stadium. I will say it was definitely, even though it's really hot outside in Houston anyways, it's definitely hotter in the stadium just because, the big part of the roof is open due to Hurricane Beryl. Look, I've been in hot games, whether it's Astros games or Texans games, so it wasn't terrible, but I think it would have been a lot better if it wasn't for the little bit of the open roof. But hopefully they can get that fixed. I don't think they'll, I don't know. I don't think they'll be fixed before, week 2 when the Texans have their home opener, which I think good thing their home opener is a night game. So I guess that would be good. But there are a couple weeks where they could have extra time to fix the part of the roof. I think it would take longer though, because after the last preseason game, the Texans have a week off before the regular season starts, and then week 1 they're on the road. So they're a couple weeks off for the Texans playing at home, after the preseason's over. But that was the only bad thing I would say about my experience at the game. I loved how many fans were there for a preseason game. So many fans. I think I've been to regular season games where there are less fans. I went to the preseason game last year against the Miami Dolphins, and there were a good amount of fans there. I'm not saying there weren't, but not as much as fans that were there today against the New York Giants. Great crowd today for a preseason game. Can't wait to see what week 2 home opener against the Chicago Bears looks like on Sunday Night Football. If that's what it looked like today in a preseason game against the New York Giants. So that was great for the Texans. And I loved the end zone, how it looks with both logos. You got the old logo and you got the new logo that looks fantastic. Had a great time at the game. Had some good seats. I like going to preseason games just because they're cheaper, and I don't really care about what else is going on of like the other games that are going on at the time. And it was a good game. So and the Texans win, so I'm happy with that. I went to last preseason game I went to against the Dolphins. The Texans got their butts kicked, but this one was a win. So let's get into it. 28-10 is the final score. This Texans defense was dominating in this game. And we're going to go to the scoring summary. That's where it starts. Defense. Jalen Petrie, who had a monster day for this Texans team, had a 5-yard interception return, pick 6, touchdown to make it 7-0. In the Texans' last home game in the wild card against the Cleveland Browns, we saw the Texans have back-to-back pick 6s, Christian Harris and Steven Nelson, who's no longer with the team. Texans keep that going with a Jalen Petrie 5-yard pick 6. It's 7-0. How about a former Houston Texan that did plant a big impact in that wild card game against the Cleveland Browns and for the entire season in 2023 for the Houston Texans? Devin Singletary with a second quarter touchdown with a 1-yard touchdown run. It's 7-7. Singletary had a good day. I gotta say, it is weird. Look, it's weird seeing him in another uniform. That's not the weirdest part about it. The weirdest part is seeing him wear number 26 in the Giants uniform. Obviously, he wore. I'm pretty sure he did wear number 26 with the Texans. Might have been 28, but I believe he did wear 26 with the Texans. If not, I know for sure he wore number 26 with the Bills. I believe he wore number 26 with the Texans as well, but that might have been 28. But the really weird thing is seeing, number 26 for the Giants and it not being Saquon Barkley, and that's Devin Singletary. So That did a couple times that had me thinking, oh, that's Saquon Barkley. No, that's Devin Singletary. But he looked good today. 10 carries, 20 yards, one touchdown. Looked pretty solid. I'm not mad that Devin Singletary left. The Texans decided they were going to pick up Joe Mixon, so wishing him the best this season. So that made it 7-7. How about John Mechie? He was a monster. Case Keenum threw a 3-yard touchdown to him. Even though this is a preseason game, John Mechie III had his first career touchdown of his career. You look at the preseason games last year, the regular season last year, and even the first three preseason games this year. No touchdowns for John Mechie until today. John Mechie had a monster day, leading the Texans in receiving yards with 68 receiving yards. And he has not been playing too good in practice. His first two preseason games, he's been terrible. So he needed to make it, a strong impact in this game today. To be completely honest, I think we're going to have to see another good preseason game from him. I'm not saying I don't think he should after this performance. I'm not saying he 100% is not going to make the roster. I think this really helped him. But I think we need to see another good performance out of him when he is competing with another guy named Xavier Hutchinson who's been having a really good preseason and training camp, and then Robert Woods who's been successful as well in training camp and preseason. But great day for John Mechie. And that made it 14-7. Then going to halftime, Graham Gano knocks in a 31-yard field goal to make it 14-10. How about British Brooks? Was the player of the fourth quarter, two touchdown runs for him, a 6-yard touchdown run, 21-10 with 12 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Out of that touchdown, I did leave. With all the late guys in the game, as much as I like and would like to see them and see them play, wanted to get out of there. Like I said, it was hot, and knew that to get an Uber, it would have been crazy. If you waited until the game was over. But we walked to the Holiday Inn. I was able to watch the end of the game, the last 6 minutes of the ball game. So that was good. And then with 3 minutes remaining, British Brooks again, 15-yard touchdown run, 28-10. Look, this is a good game for British Brooks, and this is with how tight this running back room is. It's not a performance where he will still definitely get cut from this roster, but a strong game like this, and maybe another strong game potentially next week against the Rams, definitely potentially a practice squad candidate for the Houston Texans. Obviously, I don't think he's a guy that's going to make the 53-man roster, but if he has a performance like this today and he goes out there and does the same thing or very similar, just a good performance next week against the Rams, look, I think with how good we've seen from the running back room so far, there's definitely going to be one running back in the practice squad out of 13. It's like 13, 15 players in the practice squad. I think we could see maybe 2 or 3. I mean, there have been some running backs who you definitely won't expect and they won't be on the roster that have been so good to the point where they'll be on the practice squad. And British Brooks, with what he did today, he was definitely one of those guys that you would think, okay, he might be a practice squad guy with the way he's been playing. But he was fantastic. All right, game leaders, Daniel Jones threw 11 for 18 with 138 pass yards, 2 interceptions. Look, I'm not going to go ahead and say Daniel Jones was terrible in this game. He did make some mistakes. He threw 2 interceptions. Tom Brady's looking pretty good right now because we just saw Tom Brady at the Fanatic Fest say, talking about criticizing players, and he threw an example, Daniel Jones throwing an interception. And people kind of got upset about that. Well, Daniel Jones threw 2 interceptions in this game to Jalen Petrie and Derek Stingley Jr. Now, look, I'm not going to criticize Daniel Jones off of a bad preseason performance because this is a guy who was playing in his first game off of a torn ACL. If this is a regular season game and he's playing like this, it's different. But his preseason, he did make even though he did make mistakes in throwing 2 interceptions, there were good throws. He did have some really good throws. One deep ball to Darius Slayton, some other really nice throws in this game. So Daniel Jones wasn't perfect. He wasn't good. But yes, did he make 2 mistakes, 2 big mistakes, and this is coming from a Texans fan. But at the same time, he did make some good throws. And this is a guy who was in his first game coming back from a torn ACL. And also, for a guy who just tore his ACL, he did have a couple good runs in this game, I want to say. But look, I don't expect a big season from Daniel Jones. I think it'll probably be a bad year. But I will say he did make some good throws, even though he made two big mistakes. Tim Boyle, how about Tim Boyle finally getting some action? 10 for 15, 94 yards. We've seen Tim Boyle in other games, but not this good. Rushing yards, Devin Singletary with 10 carries for 20 rushing yards and one touchdown, leading the Giants in rushing yards, while J.J. Taylor, another guy I was talking about at the running back room who should be a practice squad guy with the way he's been playing, had a great game. Had some very good runs in this game. 5 carries for 36 rushing yards. Receiving yards, Darius Slayton with 3 receptions for 59 receiving yards. He had a big catch thrown by Daniel Jones that led to the Giants' first touchdown. John Mechie was fantastic. It was 6 receptions for 68 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. Let's go over some other stats, though, to wrap up the postgame. Tommy DeVito threw 10 for 19 with 75 passing yards for the Giants. C.J. Stroud looked good for the Texans, throwing 7 for 10 with 88 passing yards. Case Keenum looked great as well. 7 for 13 with 73 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. I got to say, with Davis Mills, not playing in this game and not practicing recently, and Tim Boyle and Case Keenum both looking pretty good in this game, I think we might see a Davis Mills trade. I don't know. But rushing outside J.J. Taylor, Cam Akers looked great. 6 carries, 29 rushing yards. 5 carries and 23 rushing yards with 2 touchdowns for British Brooks. Jawar Jordan looked fantastic for the Texans. He had 8 carries for 16 rushing yards with 4 receptions for 42 receiving yards. And then you got Dameon Pierce, 4 carries with 5 rushing yards. And then Duran Gabalaway, 2 carries for 4 rushing yards. Things are not looking good for Dameon Pierce. He's been absolutely terrible when he's given the opportunity to run. Even his returns, which is a very good thing for him, weren't even that good in this game. And then you got the running backs that are absolutely killing it. Cam Akers is killing it. Guys like British Brooks and Jawar Jordan and J.J. Taylor, absolutely amazing in this game. Dre Gabalaway is a guy who I think already has a roster spot guaranteed because of what he's done for this team. And then of course Joe Mixon's going to make the roster. I don't think things are looking good for Dameon Pierce at all. Stephon Diggs also did have 2 rushing yards in this game off of 1 carry, not bad. John Mechie did lead the Texans in in receiving yards, but outside of that, like I mentioned, Jordan had 42 receiving yards. Dalton Schultz had 3 receptions for 39 receiving yards. Nico had 1 reception for 24 receiving yards. Steven Sims had 2 receptions for 20 receiving yards. So did Xavier Hutchinson with the same exact number. Brevin Jordan had 2 receptions for 16 receiving yards. Dalton Keene had 2 receptions with 12 receiving yards. And Stephon Diggs had 1 reception for 9 receiving yards. Final stat was Troy Harrison having 1 reception for 5 receiving yards. And then want to go to the Giants real quick. Malik Neighbors, rookie wide receiver, had 4 receptions for 54 receiving yards. And back to Darius Slayton. The throw I was talking about, the nice throw by Daniel Jones, was a 44-yard pass to Darius Slayton that did lead to a touchdown score for the Giants. So that was one of the impressive things I saw from Daniel Jones in this game. All right, fumbles. The Texans were able to recover a couple of fumbles in this game. Neville Hewitt and Lonnie Johnson both recovered fumbles in this game, while the Texans did have another fumble recovery, and that was Malik Fisher. So they were picking up some fumbles in this game. Tommy DeVito lost a fumble. Same thing goes for Lorenzo Lingard and Josh Giles. So Texans defense was not just getting interceptions, but recovering fumbles. Thanks to Neville Hewitt, Lonnie Johnson Jr., and Malik Fisher. Not bad there. Texans tackle leaders. The Texans did have only 1 sack in this game. That was Solomon Byrd, and they had 3 tackles for loss. Jalen Petrie had 1 of those. Byrd had the other, and Marcus Harris also had 1 for the Texans. Tackle leaders, following players had 5 tackles: Mike Ford Jr., Max Tolley. Following players had 4: Chris Boyd, Miles Bryant, Lonnie Johnson Jr., Jake Hansen, Jimmy Ward, Khalil Davis, Jamal Hill, Kalen Bullock, all had 2. Following players also had 2: Jalen Petrie and Neville Hewitt and Henry Toto'o and Marcus Harris. And then a bunch of players only had 1 tackle. I'm not going to go over all those names, but There was a lot of good things and good positive things for the defense today. Looked really good. Held the Giants to 10 points, 3 fumble recoveries, and then the 2 interceptions. Jalen Petrie had a 5-yard touchdown, return, 5-yard pick six return for a touchdown, and then Derek Stingley Jr. had an amazing interception that the Giants were driving on that possession, and Derek Stingley Jr. had an amazing interception for the Texans. He almost had 2 interceptions in this game. He kind of dropped the first opportunity for an interception, but then came right back and was able to get one. So he looked great in this game as well. Now, kick returns, Dameon Pierce, what I was talking about, only an 18-yard kick return. He kind of got hit really hard, too. Steven Sims also had an 18 kick return. Punt returns wasn't even that bright either. Desmond King had 1 punt return for 8 yards, and Miles Bryant had 1 for 1 yard. So, Let me know your thoughts on the Texans winning 28-10 in the preseason. That's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and peace out. Go Texans.